Hey everybody, this is the Review Revolution, back at you with the Spider-Man series Black Costume Spider-Man. So a really awesome character, a really awesome costume on an awesome character. Not one you see much anymore, unfortunately, but not in the comics, but the movie really kind of brought it back, which is awesome. I love it. Just to kind of get a close look at him in the pack, he comes with the web glider, which figure rides glider. Very cool. On the back, we've got some other figures that are in the wave. The more traditional kind of Spider-Man. The Iron Spider. Spider-Man, kind of a brighter Spider-Man, more of a cartoony kind of Spider-Man with a backpack lighter. Venom, Tarantula, and the Green Goblin. Now I picked up the Green Goblin because, you know, he's just an iconic villain, and I picked up the Iron Spider. Now one thing I noticed between this one, the more traditional one, which I actually have one I'm thinking is almost identical, and then the Iron Spider, is that these seem to be from the Marvel Legends wave. You can kind of think of this as the best of Spider-Man figures, kind of their picks from their catalog of Spider-Man figures. It's the kindest thing I can say based on how they've packaged this and who they've decided to put in there, because there's no rhyme nor reason to the way they look. They're just Spider-Man figures, which, hey, I'm okay with it. One thing I do like is going along the lines of the Wolverine figures. We do have the Spider-Man outline on the card, which I'm not a big fan of having a lot of card to begin with, but I do kind of like the idea that they're keeping up with the outline of the figure. That I think would be really cool if that's the way they stay with. Otherwise, pretty basic. Just the yellow and black, just the kind, or the yellow and the yellow and black, but the packaging itself with the blue and the red. Excuse me. Very iconic. Exactly what you'd expect to see. Going along with the Spider-Man title. We'll take a moment. We'll pop them out of the pack and get a close look at the figure. So stick around. Alright everybody, well, we got our not-so-friendly neighborhood Spider-Man out of his box, and I'm so sorry, I was so eager to get into him, I skipped the bio. It does have a little bit of a bio on it. Not really a whole lot, but it says, Spider-Man stalks the streets in his black costume looking for trouble. He's played nice with criminals for far too long, and now it's time they learn the web slinger is serious. Creeping quietly from rooftop to rooftop, he searches for muggers ready to smash any crime he finds. So, muggers beware. If you're a bank robber or a cab jumper, you're fine. Just don't be a mugger. But getting him out of the pack, I love this figure. There's just a lot to really like about him. Unlike the Marvel Legend figures, which I have a few of those, I've actually got the entire wave of the Nemesis with Tigra and Punisher and Daredevil and so forth. The Marvel Legend line, I think, was a great example of over-articulation. Just too much articulation that ultimately distracted from the final product. And we don't have that here. As a matter of fact, when you look at this Spider-Man, when you really get a look at him, he's got a lot more articulation than you might think. Not as much as I would like. I think there's a lot more articulation they could put in here. But this is certainly more of a balance like what I was looking for. One bad thing that I found is the paint job on him. If you can see underneath his chest here, there's a little bit of a white run. And beyond just that, I don't think you can really tell as well. Well, maybe there you go. You can see how the white is just a very, very thin coat of white. The black underneath kind of comes through. And if you work with acrylic paints, if you're a customizer, or if you work with acrylics, then I don't have to tell you that white and yellow are very, very tough colors to work with. They really are. And even though this is a pretty example, you can see how the paint kind of pooled in the in his back. And even though they're difficult colors to work with, I still am rather disappointed in that. It's probably the only drawback, really, other than some of the articulation they could have put in, that I have with the figure in general. Speaking of which, I mean, he's got actually a ball-jointed head that gives him a chance to look up slightly and down a little bit. I should have picked a different backdrop for this. So up, down, there you go. Head turns all the way around. The arm is on a ball joint, comes about that far up, does spin all the way around. Nothing in the bicep, and only a hinge on the elbow. Nothing in the hand. I think both of those could have been put in. Considering that you look at the 3.5-inch line that's out there, putting it in a figure this size and still keeping the sculpt on the figure, couldn't have been all that difficult. I give him some minus points on that. He does have a swivel at his upper torso. Gives him a bit of a crunch, which is kind of nice. He has the kind of ball and hinge joint on the leg. It's a very tight figure. The joints on this plastic are very, very tight, very, very, very new. This is interesting. The calf, he bends at the knee and he bends at the foot, but he also bends the knee this way. So just so you can see, he's got an extra angle on him, which, you know, considering that's in there, I don't know. That really should have been up here, frankly. But the foot, again, along with the pivot, there is a slight hinge, not all that much, and I don't really want to work it too much because I'm afraid I'm going to break it. But again, this is a great, almost there Spider-Man. He's a great Spider-Man where it's like, you know, with just a little more work, I don't need double hinges on the elbows, I don't need double hinges on the knees. A little work on the ankles, a little work on the bicep and the wrists, and he would have been perfect. I think he would have been just great. For what he is, I have to say that if you have small children, if you have children who maybe not small, you know, maybe if they're you know 5, 6, you know, and you're a collector yourself, and you really want to get your kids into collecting figures, this is actually be a pretty good one to get for them because they're not hard to find, they're not real expensive, and it's pretty durable. I mean, this is a pretty, you know, tough plastic. I have no doubt this is a figure that is really meant to be played with. By that, I have to say that the web glider is kind of it's sort of like that bat laptop thing. I mean, I'm sure it appeals to the kids. I'm sure they would have fun with it in some way. I'm not all that excited about it. I think that if you left it out, knocked off $1 or $2 from the price of the figure, there you go. I'd be happy with it. He does ride the glider, like so. And he actually can turn. So you've got Spider-Man riding on his web glider. Now, the Green Goblin, of course, comes with his glider, so, you know, I guess it makes sense that, you know, you'd want a Spider-Man who's on a glider who can, you know, fly around and do air battles and stuff like that. So, again, something I'm sure is going to appeal more to the kids and people who actually play with their figures. But taking that off, I really have to say I think this is a really great figure. One that I would definitely recommend. I recommend most of the figures on the line if you don't already have them, because again, I think they're kind of a rehash of what's already out there. But this has been the review revolution of the black costume Spider-Man. Thank you for watching. Hey, rate, comment, subscribe, and join the revolution. Thanks, everybody.